Have you ever wondered how Germany became the economic powerhouse of Europe? For decades, the label "Made in Germany" has been a symbol of quality and reliability. But today, Germany's once unbeatable economic engine is sputtering. What went wrong? Let's dive deep into the story of Germany's rise and the tough challenges it is facing right now. After the devastation of World War II, West Germany pulled off something incredible, the Wirtschaftswunder wonder or economic miracle. With help from the Marshall Plan, the country rebuilt itself from the ashes. The secret sauce? An export-led growth model. Germany focused on making high-quality, specialized industrial goods, think cars, machinery, and chemicals, and selling them to the world. Companies like Volkswagen, Siemens, and BASF became global giants. This strategy was supercharged by a skilled workforce, a strong focus on vocational training, and a culture of Mittelstand companies, small and medium-sized family-owned businesses that are the backbone of the economy. They weren't just competing on price, they were competing on quality and engineering excellence. For decades, this model worked flawlessly. Germany consistently ran huge trade surpluses, meaning it sold far more to the world than it bought. It was the envy of its neighbors. Then, in 1999, a game changer arrived, the euro. For Germany, the single currency was a massive blessing. Before the euro, a strong German Deutschmark would have made German exports more expensive. But the euro, shared with many weaker economies, was effectively weaker than the Deutschmark would have been on its own. This made German goods even more competitive within the eurozone. And beyond, it was like getting a permanent discount on all their exports. While countries like Spain, Italy, and Greece enjoyed a flood of cheap credit, Germany doubled down on its industrial base. Around the same time, the Hartz reforms in the early 2000s made the labor market more flexible and controlled wage growth. This kept production costs down, further boosting Germany's competitive edge. The result? Germany's export machine went into overdrive, solidifying its position as Europe's undisputed economic leader. It seemed like the good times would never end. When the 2008 global financial crisis hit, it was a massive stress test for the entire world. The US and UK financial systems were on the brink of collapse, but Germany weathered the storm surprisingly well. Why? Its economy wasn't built on risky financial bets or a housing bubble. It was built on tangible things, making and selling high-quality products. While other countries were dealing with banking collapses, German factories kept churning out cars and machines that the world, especially emerging markets like China, still wanted to buy. In fact, China's massive stimulus package after the crisis created a huge appetite for German industrial goods, pulling the German economy through the downturn. This experience seemed to prove the superiority of the German model. It was stable, reliable, and crisis-proof, or so it seemed. The crisis reinforced the belief in Berlin that sticking to fiscal prudence and export-oriented industry was the only right way forward. But the world has changed dramatically, and the very foundations of Germany's success are now looking shaky. Three major pillars that supported its economic model are crumbling. First, cheap energy. For decades, Germany relied on cheap natural gas from Russia to power its heavy industry. This was a huge competitive advantage. But the war in Ukraine and the shutdown of the Nord Stream pipelines brought this era to an abrupt end. Suddenly, energy costs skyrocketed, putting immense pressure on energy-intensive sectors like chemicals and manufacturing. The transition to renewable energy is happening, but it's expensive and slow, and it can't immediately replace the reliable, cheap gas Germany lost. This energy shock has fundamentally altered the cost equation for German industry. The second pillar was the rise of China. For years, China was Germany's perfect partner. It was a massive, hungry market for German cars and machinery. And at the same time, it was a source of cheap components. It was a win-win, but China is no longer just a customer. It's a powerful competitor. Chinese companies, once happy to assemble parts, are now producing their own high-tech goods, from electric vehicles to advanced machinery. They're not just competing in their home market. They're starting to challenge German companies on the global stage. This shift from customer to competitor is a profound threat to Germany's export model. The days of easy growth by selling to China are over. The third pillar is demographics. Germany has one of the oldest populations in the world. The baby boomer generation, which powered the economic miracle, is now retiring. This is creating a massive labor shortage. There simply aren't enough young, skilled workers to replace them. Factories, hospitals, and tech companies are all struggling to find people. This skilled worker shortage puts a hard limit on how much the economy can grow. It also puts huge strain on the social security and pension systems. Without a new generation of workers, the entire economic structure is at risk. It's a slow-moving crisis, but one that could be the most difficult to solve. So, with its core pillars of cheap energy, the China trade, and a large workforce all under threat, Germany finds itself at a difficult crossroads. You would think it's time for a radical change, right? But adaptation is proving incredibly difficult. Germany's success has created a powerful sense of inertia. The political and business establishment is deeply invested in the old model. Shifting away from the export-led strategy feels risky and unnatural. There's a cultural resistance to change, a preference for caution and stability over bold new ventures. We see this in the slow adoption of digitalization and the lack of a vibrant startup culture compared to other countries. The famous German caution, once a strength, that ensured quality, is now a weakness that slows down necessary reforms. Furthermore, the bureaucracy is famously slow and complex, making it hard to get big new projects, like wind farms or new infrastructure, off the ground quickly. And politically, it's tough. A transition away from the current model would mean short-term pain for some industries and workers, which is always a hard sell for any government. Germany is trying to adapt, it's investing in green technology and trying to diversify its trade partners away from China. But the question is whether it can change fast enough. The sick man of Europe, a label Germany wore in the late 90s before its comeback, is being whispered again. Germany's future prosperity depends on whether it can shed the skin of its old, successful model and embrace a new one for a changed world. It needs a new Wirtschaftswunder. But this time, the miracle needs to be one of reinvention. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think Germany should do to reinvent its economy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into the global economy. See you next time.